And welcome back to our special playoff edition of Bay Area Sports Night. Talked a whole bunch of Warriors, but we want to survey what else is out there happening with all the different series. We want to bring in our friend of the show, Zach Brook with NBC Sports Washington. Help us really figure out what's happening in the Eastern Conference Series and also, too, some really important stories that have really presented themselves out west. But first, I want to start with the Boston Celtics because yesterday, an exciting game between Boston and the Pacers. Zach, first off, thoughts on if the Celtics finally figured out how to get rolling because we saw them rally from double digits yesterday.
Yeah, last night's game was incredible, and with Tatum and Irving combining for what I think 63, it was remarkable. But they needed more of an effort from the other guys. I know Horford was playing a little bit hurt, but Jaylen Brown really wasn't doing much. Hayward came in with 13 off the bench, but they need to put in more than that, and they've had to come back in both games now, which I'm glad to see them up 2-0. But these are both games have been in Boston. Now you're going down to Indy. And you got to start establishing a lead and just sort of defending that. You can't always come right back. But it's great to see them sort of galvanize the troops, kind of play really, really well together, and kind of put the hammer down right towards the end when the Pacers really don't have a person to lead them because that's normally Oladipo. You saw it last night with the costly turnover when they could have gone and tied up the game, but that really, really put it out of reach. You're really seeing that Boston's really just fighting for the kind of like that first 46 minutes of the game, but then in that final two, they're just turning it on, and the Pacers really don't have an option to match.
Yeah, you kind of said it right. They're really fighting. It seems like the Pacers have really uglied these games up. That first game, I mean, it looked like a Big Ten game between Michigan and Ohio State. It was low scoring, and then that second game, it was ugly for a while too. And then the Celtics got it going. Do you think there's a reason to be concerned, despite the fact that they're up 2-0, or do you think this is just a brand of the basketball that the Pacers are making them play, uglying the game up because, like you said, they don't have many stars?
Well, the Pacers are one of the best defensive teams in the league this year, even after Oladipo went down, and a lot of people were really surprised to see them stay where they were. But at the time of his injury, I think they were in the third slot. They went 15-19 after they lost him, which is admirable, but it's not that it's okay, but it's nothing that really could say this team can make some noise in the postseason. And they're a good defensive team. Bogdanovich is having a career year. I think he's going to get paid this offseason. But I think it's just kind of that tough-nosed group that they have, and they've got a good bench unit coming in. But for Boston, I like this. I think they're slowly kind of coming into their own. But I think this game – I don't think they're going up 3-0 tomorrow night. I think the Pacers are going to make it a series, and I think this could go 6 or 7 games.
That's fascinating. Yeah, Pacers, they've really been a great story. 76ers Nets, is this an underappreciated growing rivalry?
I think so. They're pretty close. And I don't know if you saw they put up the wanted sign near the Barclays Center tonight with Ben Simmons. It says "missing jumper, please return to if found." I know Jason saw it, but that was remarkable. I think so. It's great because when the Nets, the Sixers, they really just both kind of struggled over the past years, and now that they're both playing really well, that's a new rivalry and it's really good. And I think Jared Allen and Embiid are going to have some back and forths going from here on out.
Yeah, that series has been interesting because you get the game 1 blowout of the Sixers, the game 2 blowout of the Nets. Where do you see tonight going? Because I can't call it.
I think you got to go with Brooklyn. I think what is this? The first time they've had a playoff game there since that season with KG and Pierce and Jason Terry.
Dream team.
Yeah, they're going to be. Those fans are going to be loud tonight, and I think Brooklyn's going to run away with it. But I don't think they're gonna take both home games. I think Philly's gonna win Game 4, but I think Brooklyn's gonna come out. They're coming out strong tonight because they got embarrassed the other night. They took it to you Game 1, Game 2. They really didn't defend it, and I think tonight they're gonna show basically what Brooklyn basketball is all about. I think D'Angelo Russell's gonna have a really good game.
Which is the team that's scarier when it's firing on all cylinders, Milwaukee or Toronto?
Honestly, Toronto. I know Milwaukee's a great story. I know they're the coach of the year and the MVP, but like I was saying today, they don't have Malcolm Brogdon out there, and he's their best shooter. Chris Middleton is good, but like if you need somebody to get a bucket in crunch time, I don't know if he's the guy I'm giving the ball to, and I'm definitely not giving it to Giannis unless you're within 5 feet of the rim. Toronto, you've got a lot of depth. You got Pascal Siakam, who's basically going to be the most improved player. Kawhi can hit from anywhere. You got Van Vliet, Danny Green's knockdown shooter. Ibaka's got an expanded three. You got Marcus Gasol can shoot the three. They've got a lot of options. Milwaukee, I think Milwaukee's the best team in the East that's going to pound another team. But when it comes down to the waning moments, I'm going with Toronto or Boston to close it out.
Yeah, and I think this Milwaukee series against the Pistons, they've killed them. But I think it's kind of fooled gold because they're playing the Pistons without their best player.
Right.
And the
you
Pistons
could play like 30 games against
the Pistons are already not that great of a team. And then you take away, an all-star off them, and they're not even a playoff team without him. So I think it's kind of fool's gold. I would agree with you that Toronto is probably the most dangerous team in the Eastern Conference. So how do you see this next round going? Like, assuming the Celtics get by the Pacers and then, the Raptors get by the Magic, which I guess we can all assume too, and the Bucks, it would be Bucks versus Boston. How would you see that matchup?
Good series.
Because I think that would be a really
good
great
series.
That's gonna be an amazing series. But I think it really is gonna be who can get back quicker, healthier, Brogdon or Marcus Smart. And I think those two guys are really the X factors. Brogdon should be back sooner, but I don't know if he's going to be 100%. And Smart, regardless of how healthy he is, he's going to be giving it his all on the court. And just his impact for them is going to put them on another level. So I think it's going to be, right now, if both of them are out, I think it could go either way. But I think he's got to rely on one of those two guys because they're going to be really impactful. Right now, I think Boston really – I think they're unlocking their full potential because I think Indy is a much tougher test for them than Detroit with no Blake Griffin is for Milwaukee. And I think it's going to be really interesting and more. I know Milwaukee had a better season, but Boston right now is more battle tested than Milwaukee going into the next round.
Yeah, Boston all day if that series plays out. I have a question, though. What's up with Terry Rozier? Because he's just been a shell of himself all year. It seems like he only plays well when he's playing the Sixers.
Yeah, that's honestly, if he's going to choose 4 games a year to play really well, I'd like it to be against Philadelphia. But but I think just like he knows he's a starting point guard in this league. He knows they've kept him longer than they should. They really should have traded him at the deadline. But he really only gets into it. I've never really seen it with a guy who plays so well as a starter but not off the bench, and then when they move to the bench, he kind of struggles. Even though last year he did it well. He was like 15, 5, and 5 last year after Irving went down. And then he's really never reps. Maybe it's just kind of like a confidence issue. But I think it's definitely coming versus Milwaukee because him and Eric Bledsoe have some history. So I think that's going to be good. But he needs to really turn it on because they're going to need it soon.
Is it a Rondo deal where like he only shows up in primetime games?
It's weird because, like I said, he has all the talent in the world. But I think you're right, Zach. You're on to something. I think he just has a different mentality when he comes off the bench and is mental with him because – when he starts for them last year, as soon as Kyrie went down, they almost got better.
Yeah.
When they drafted him a couple of years ago out of Louisville, I remember I think it was the 16th pick. They drafted him with Isaiah Thomas already at the 1 and Marcus Smart as the backup, and I really didn't understand why they took him because I know that Marcus Smart had been playing predominantly point guard at that time because I think that was the season where Thomas was coming off the bench. And so they really had their 2 starting point guards, and then they went and take him, but it's really kind of just taking the best prospect available. And he really showed his own last year that he's a top 30 starting point guard in this league. But he's on a team that has a top 5 point guard in this league, and he knows, and the team knows that Kyrie Irving is going to get the nod over him if they're both healthy. And I think they both understand that. But I think maybe it's just kind of that killer mentality that Rozier has. Just he's been the starting point guard his whole way up through high school and at Louisville until he got to the NBA. And last year was really the first chance that he was the first option. And I think whether it's going to be really interesting in the offseason to see which point guard is going to be starting for Boston next year because it could be one of those two and it could be neither.
Out west, Zach, there are 2 major storylines that I feel that have emerged so far. First off, though, Damian Lillard against Oklahoma City. Has it seemed that Lillard has taken another jump to almost like the Steph Curry level where you think every shot he puts in, he throws up is going to go in? Right. You think it's going to work like that with him?
I think Lillard has felt underappreciated since he got into the league. Like, he wasn't the most highly touted recruit going into college, and he went to Weber State. Then he got into the pros, and people were like, you know what, he's good, but he wasn't the focal point in Portland until Aldridge left. And now people don't even consider, people consider him a top 5 point guard, and he's always really been there. He had that huge shot a couple of years ago in Game 7. I think it was against Houston that won the series, and he's been campaigning for himself, and I think it was last year to get in the All-Star game. This year, I think he honestly deserves to be All-NBA. And with Westbrook, because of his time with Durant and with Scott Brooks years ago, people always say, okay, Westbrook's one of the best point guards in basketball, but he was second fiddle to Durant, and people were constantly scrutinizing him over bad shots and just doing too much. And he's putting up amazing numbers. He's averaged triple-double over 3 straight years, but his jumper hasn't gotten better. And I know he's the best, he's probably the best athlete in the NBA, but you need more than that. And he hasn't shown without Durant that he can get it done. Lillard has shown it after Aldridge left, and with Nurkic being out for the year, Portland lost all 4 games to Oklahoma City this year, and they're making jokes out of them in the first 2. If OKC doesn't, they need to get it together in Game 3, or this one's over. And I think a lot of people are going to start talking about Russell Westbrook, whether or not he's really worth the money he's getting, and if he's really worth all the numbers he's putting up, because it's really disappointing. I think the Thunder have the best shot against the Warriors, but if they can't get there, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I agree. I get killed on Twitter when I say Russell Westbrook's overrated. I think most of his numbers are empty. I don't think his play I don't think it impacts the game in terms of wins and losses. I just don't. And everything that's transpired over his career kind of points to that. I don't know why people get so offended when I say it, because, his proof is in the pudding. But let's talk about his former teammate, James Harden, and the Rockets. These guys look like they are just on a mission right now. Obviously, the saying is the playoffs don't really start until a team wins a road game.
Yep.
So Utah they have to beat Utah in Utah, but the way they're playing, man, it has me nervous for Golden State, and we're not even there yet.
Yeah, they've been playing amazing. I've actually expected a better effort out of Utah. I really haven't seen it. Donovan Mitchell really hasn't shown up for 2 games, and nobody else can really get going. You're not going to get much offense from Rudy Gobert. Derek Favors is going to be he's going to be fine. But honestly, it's maybe even worth seeing what Grayson Allen can do, because I know in that regular season finale for them, he had like 40 points, and he was putting up big numbers in big games for Duke. Maybe see what he can do, because maybe he might be one of the best options off the bench, and they're not really using him. But Utah, they're a well-coached team. They've got a lot of veteran presence. I think I'm not expecting a sweep, but they need to do something, because you can't have if the Rockets sweep Utah, I think the Warriors are really going to be looking at that schedule.
Well, how about that? Rockets Warriors. If that series started today, who are you taking it in how many games?
I still got to see how the Warriors play without Boogie, because it's a different team, and the Rockets are a different team from last year. And the Rockets were real close to edging you last year, but they decided not to hit a shot in the final game, and Chris Paul couldn't play. Now they're hitting everything, and Chris Paul's back. So it's really going to be interesting to see if the Warriors are better sans Boogie, or if they're going to have to kind of reshuffle things up, because then it might be interesting. Right now, I really couldn't nail it down. It's just a coin flip. But right now, I think if the Warriors are hitting all cylinders and everybody's healthy, you got to give the nod to them. But the Rockets are putting them on notice.
I was trying to get Zach to just give us a hot take. Just give us a hot take to end it. All right, we'll have that conversation later, Zach. Zach Brook with NBC Sports Washington. Thank you for your time and insight. We really appreciate it. We'll talk again soon, Zach.
Appreciate it. Thanks.